All right, testing. Okay. So, hey guys, my name is Ram. From Great Learning. I'm going to be your host for today's live session. So, guys, today's topic is monitoring an online bookstore using Prometheus and Grafana. So, what we will be doing is we will be, monitoring an online website that we will launch by ourselves using some monitoring tools like Prometheus and Grafana. So before we do go ahead and start, I want a confirmation from you guys in the chat because I want to make sure that you guys can hear me and that my screen is visible to you. Yeah, so we don't have to waste time later onwards when I get to know that it's not actually all that fine. Okay, so go ahead and give me a confirmation in the chat. I'll just wait for it. There's going to be a little bit of a lag. So while you guys are giving me the confirmation, what we can do is I can show you guys about Great Learning Academy. So Great Learning Academy is a really brilliant, a venture that Great Learning has come up with. So if you're looking for, certification, but, it's not fiscally possible for you to get a certification from, all those other institutions, what you can do is you can go ahead and, get the free certificate from Great Learning. So what kind of domain are you looking to, do your career in? Like, are you looking to do your career in Python or software development or machine learning or data science or cloud foundations? So if you are looking for these kind of domains and careers to look forward to, if you're a fresher especially, I would recommend for you to go ahead and check out greatlearning.in/academy. Over here we provide more than 80 plus courses that are completely free. All you have to do is just click on enroll, and you have to sign up with Google. It's as easy as that, or just put in your email address and you can sign up, enroll for a course. And we have courses from 5 or 3 or even 6 hours that you can watch and gain really good fundamentals. And on completion of your course, after you complete the quiz that is being given to you, you will earn a certificate that you can proudly show to everyone that you have knowledge in this particular field. You will have some kind of credibility when you go ahead with this. All right, so that's all about Great Learning. Oh yeah, one more thing, guys. If you're looking to enroll for these courses in your app, we have a mobile app also that you guys can go ahead and check out. And yeah, so that's it. So this is Great Learning Academy, free certificates. Now coming back to our session. So today, guys, we will be learning how we can monitor an online website using Prometheus and Grafana. So let me just open up my chat over here so I can see a confirmation from you guys. All right, so opening it up. Let me reduce the volume. All right, so yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of yeses and okays and yes. That's really good, guys. Keep the chat really active because this is going to be a very niche topic. So all of you guys who are watching, I want you to keep on asking me questions and keep on talking to each other also. All right, so okay, yeah, so this is really good. We already got a first question. Can our students do coding? Yeah, definitely, Yodhya, you can do coding. It doesn't really matter what field you come from. Coding is something, that it's something that anyone can do. If you guys have watched that Ratatouille movie where anyone can cook, right? Coding also can be taken up with that same motto, with that same spirit. Anyone can code. Even you as an art student, if you are, you can also code. And if you want to learn coding for free, I would recommend checking out Python courses, and especially on Great Learning we have Python courses. Or if you want, you can check out our YouTube video on Python tutorial. We have it in both in English and Hindi, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it very knowledgeful, and it will be something you can build upon. All right. Yes, Amar says background noises. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. There's a lot of disturbances going in the back, the other building, and I have not been able to control that. I've told them so many times, but they just don't listen. But it's all right. We'll try to speak as loud as possible, so I cover up that noise. So let's start the session, and guys, keep on rolling those questions. I'll try to answer them. All right, so let's start off. So guys, basics. So what is monitoring and why are we going to be monitoring a online website over here? So continuous monitoring or monitoring itself is a very important thing in software development process. So this is what I'm going to be doing, guys. I'll go through a little bit of theory about monitoring, and then we'll go into the practicals and actually learn how to do it. So, disclaimer, these are the technologies we will be using. We will be using Node.js, and we will be using Docker, and we will be using Prometheus and Grafana. So if you want in detail videos about those topics, you can go ahead and check them out. We have them. Now let me come back to continuous monitoring. So every software that we develop, right, it 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 has to be deployed. So once we deploy it, once we give it to the end user, you feel like your work is done. But no, it's not actually done. You still have some work left, and that is the monitoring part. It is very, very important to monitor any kind of software or system or server that you have in your production environment, because you want to get insights in what's happening, what's happening in the actual market. You can't just push it out and be like, okay, so mera kaam khatam, my work is done. You can't do that. So you have to know what's going on. How are your customers interacting with the application? How is your application doing when there's a certain amount of users coming in, or how is it doing in this kind of condition? Can I reduce the amount of resources, because these resources cost a lot of money to use, and I want to reduce as many resources as I can but give the same efficiency. So all those things, right, you need to understand how you can improve upon those things. To do that, you have to monitor them. So you have to monitor how your application is doing. You have to monitor how your software is doing. You have to monitor how your systems are performing. So all of those things are very, very important. So that's why we monitor. We gain insights from those monitorings that we do. And based on those insights, we improve our already existing software development process, or whatever software that we have deployed, that itself, or the system on which we have deployed, or the server, right? So that's why we monitor. All right, so let's move on. So continuous monitoring is a very important part of software development. It is something we take up as a measure to maintain health of a software and to improve the quality of the software. This is based on the feedback we get from the insights gained from monitoring. Now, there are a lot of different companies that do this. Like almost every company does this. I can guarantee you even Great Learning does this. We monitor data, and all those other companies also monitor data. So you have companies like Spotify, Windows, Adobe, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Bose, Slack, IBM, Adidas. All of these companies are very large companies. They have different kind of products, and they have different kinds of services that they all provide. There's no one like single domain that you can point out other than Microsoft or Google or Amazon. All of them have different kinds of services and products that they provide to customers. So since they have so many different types of products and services, they need to improve upon them continuously. Otherwise, they lose their customers. So what they do is they monitor everything. So Google, right? That's a very good example. Google monitors everything. If you're watching this on your phone, I can guarantee you that Google is probably listening to you, talk to your family, or, even listen, see me watching, even see you watching this session itself. That will become a part of algorithm that studies you. And it's basically a type of monitoring where you're being studied, your customer habits are being studied, and based upon that, they're forming a picture of you. And based on that picture of you, they give you ads. So a lot of companies do this, even Microsoft, even Amazon. Almost every company I've listed here does this. So there is some kind of monitoring always happening, and there is a lot of deep level monitoring also happening. Now, they do this to improve their business processes and to improve their revenue in general. Okay. All right, so these companies, right, they produce a lot of different types of data. You have your system performance data, you have your machine performance data, your server performance, you have the logs that are being produced. So every software or every system that works produces logs. These logs are important because you want to know why something goes wrong. To understand why something goes wrong, you study the logs, and you even study the metrics coming in from all of these things. So metrics and logs differ in the matter that logs define the problem, whereas metrics alert us about the problem. All right, so we will understand about this a little bit later. So let's continue now. So we just understand that these companies produce all this different kind of data, right? So they produce this kind of data, and what they do is they take this data and they create visualizations on this data. They create graphs, they create charts, they create gauges, they create heat maps, they create a lot of different types of graphs. If you are into data visualization, which I do recommend you guys check out, you can see that there are so many different kinds of visualizations you can come up with. And those visualizations look really amazing. And if you have good visualizations, you always are attracted to them. And visualizations help you get a better idea of what's happening. What would you understand more? An Excel sheet in which you have just numbers, or if you have a pie chart that details the portions of certain things. It's definitely going to be the pie chart, right? Okay, so that's why the companies produce data. This data has been visualized, and based on these visualizations, you get a lot of different insights. And once you gain these insights, right, you understand what's gone wrong or what needs to be improved upon. And that's when the company starts raking in all the cash, all the rokada they start raking in, where they produce a really good software based on the insights that they gain, and that way customers keep on buying the product again and again. A good example of this is Apple. Apple understands what the customer wants. It understands what needs to be improved in the software or the firmware later onwards. So they give the best product that is available in the market, and people go after it like hungry hippos. So that's why they're able to provide such a good product, and they're able to become the top company in the world that they are. It's a $1 trillion worth company. Can you even imagine that? And then comes the scalability factor. Now scalability factor is very important when you're a growing company. So let's take an example like Swiggy, right? When Swiggy started growing, they must have implemented a lot of different various types of monitoring, where they were able to understand what faults were there of their already existing IT infrastructure. And based on those errors that they identified or those problems that they identified, they improved upon them in the next quarterly cycle or whatever format that they follow. And because of that, they had very less number of issues, at least from our point of view. And they were able to improve the services that they were able to provide to all of us. So you can imagine the amount of effort it went into just monitoring all of these kind of things. So you can see we get a lot of benefits from monitoring. All right, so there are a lot of different types of monitoring. You have system performance, you have process monitoring, integration, application performance, business monitoring. So system performance is basically how your system is performing. So let's say you have a Windows system or a Windows laptop on your, with you, on your person. So what happens? What do you do when there is a problem? Like, can somebody tell me if your computer hangs? Tell this to me in the chat. What do you do when something goes wrong in the system? What do you do? What is the first thing you do? I'm assuming you guys don't do anything. You just sit and look at the laptop, or is this because of the lag? I've not gotten an answer. Or is this a shy audience that I have? All right, so that's good. Mahindra gave a good answer that you reboot the system. That's a good thing. There's one very specific thing that I'm talking about. It's been memed also a lot. There's those three keys that everyone presses. Whenever you press those three keys, you get a screen, and you check in that screen what's gone wrong, what's eating a lot of memory and all that. So what are those three keys, and what am I talking about? What is this thing I'm talking about? Sandeep gave an answer, check the dump. So yeah, you can check the dump, but where do you check the dump? Where do you understand that something's gone wrong? In your Windows system itself. You guys don't need to give me any other operating system's answer. All right, so I'll just give you the answer, otherwise it'll take way too long. So it's the task manager, right? You do Control Alt Delete, and you get your task manager on, and you open your task manager, and your task manager basically shows you all the details, like how much CPU is being used, how much memory is being used, how much disk space is being used, how much networking is being, how much network is being trafficked. You can even check the performance. So this is like another form of monitoring of the system. So you're monitoring your system to understand what's gone wrong. If you see that there's a performance dip in a certain application, you look at what's gone wrong over here, right? So you understand that this specific, okay, if you're playing a game and that game crashes, you open your task manager, and in that task manager, you identify this game is using way too much memory and you don't know why, but you at least get to know that this game is the thing that is at fault. So that's where your system performance comes in. You check out your system's performance. If it's very lacking, you have a set of assumptions that you go with. You have an assumption that your laptop is working really fine. But if you see that it's not working fine, then you have to identify. So that monitoring tells you that where the problem has occurred. Similarly, you have process monitoring where you check for each process, how well that process is working, how much resources is it using out of the resource pool that's already been given. And then comes integration. Now when I talk about integration, I'm really talking about how all the different parts of software are integrated together, like the database or the middleware or the front end and the back end. How are they all connected together? How well are they connected together? Is some one thing going to spoil the whole thing? So we have to question that. So that's, again, monitoring, that's where it comes in. Then application monitoring. So application monitoring is the software that you deploy. So you want to see how well your software is doing. You will obviously have a set of assumptions for how your software will be doing. And based on that, you will gain insights whether it's doing perfectly fine or even better than you thought, or it's not doing well at all. All right, so now let's talk about business monitoring. So I've already talked about business monitoring when I was talking about Amazon and Google and Microsoft taking your information in. It's basically business monitoring. You check out how your business is doing. You identify trends and patterns, and you try to come up with better solutions for problems in future, right? So that's your business monitoring. So yeah, I see a lot of people have answered Control or Delete, like Sandeep, and Hindol has said Task Manager. Yeah, you're right. All right, so Sarika has asked, I am a school student. Is it beneficial for me? But thanks, it's interesting. Well, if you're watching this as a school student, I'm really surprised. This is a little bit more advanced topic, Sarika, but it's all right. If you find it interesting, then definitely keep on watching. If you like it, then, you have an upper hand when you go to college, or if you choose whatever field you know. All right, so that's the types of monitoring. Now I'll quickly go through the tools. We have a lot of tools like ELK Stack or Elastic Stack. We have Prometheus, Grafana, Nagios, Amazon CloudWatch, Splunk. We have Google Analytics. We have a lot of different tools. I've just mentioned these tools because I know these tools. I'm not mentioning a lot of different tools, And even with business analytics, you have so many tools. Like I think a good visualization tool that you guys might know about is Tableau. Tableau is used a lot in the industry, but it's not necessarily used for software purpose, but it is used in the business world a lot, right? Okay, so these are the monitoring tools. Going past them. All right, so now we come to the core things of our session today. So Prometheus and Grafana. We will be talking about how you guys can use Prometheus and Grafana to monitor your applications, right? So as I told you guys earlier in the session, we will be working with Docker. So I'll tell you just now itself. So what we will do is we will launch an application in a Docker container, and we will launch these services that help us monitoring also in Docker containers, and we will see how it all works out. All right, so Prometheus, if you guys don't know, it is an open source tool that is primarily used for metrics monitoring and alerting. So it is developed in 2012 to fulfill SoundCloud. So if you guys know about SoundCloud, that open source place where you get those really nice mixes of a lot of different music. My favorite is Jack Strawber, but I'm digressing now. So SoundCloud is one of those hefty web applications, and at that time, in 2012, they felt like the model of the monitoring that they were using wasn't sufficient enough. So what they did was, the collection agent wasn't sufficient enough. So what they did was they came up with Prometheus. Now, Prometheus was really good. It has a multi-dimensional data model. It's such a large word that you can even understand from its complexity that it's a really good tool. And it has impressive scaling, impressive simplicity in the monitoring capabilities. It makes use of a very powerful querying language called PromQL. So if you want to query anything, you can easily query a lot of different data by making use of the PromQL query language. Now, Prometheus is a pull-based metric monitoring system which needs location of the specific endpoints. All right. So I've spoke a lot of words out right now. Let me simplify this. So we have Prometheus and we have Grafana, right? So Prometheus is our collection tool. It is not used for visualizations. Visualizations as in dashboards and charts. Prometheus only collects data. So it's a two-man job. Prometheus collects all of the data and Grafana displays all of the data, right? So how does Prometheus collect all of this data? So let's look at that. So we'll look at Prometheus's architecture. Okay, let me just finish off the features. Multi-dimensional data model, PromQL, service discovery, a time series connection via pull model, and no reliance on distributed storage. All right, so that's passed. The theory is gone. Now come back to architecture. So guys, so Gyan has asked, can you get video recording? I don't exactly understand your question, Gyan, but I assume you're asking whether if this video will be available on the channel after, as the session is over. Yeah, it will be available. You can, watch it afterwards also. So there's not a problem. So subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified about it. All right. Okay, so coming back to the architecture, so we have Prometheus. Now, Prometheus, basically, first, it makes use of the service discovery feature that it has. So service discovery basically allows Prometheus to identify the targets. Now, these targets can be the web application itself, the system from where you're collecting the data. Like your Windows system itself could be the target, or your own system could be target, or your application can be the target. And the service discovery will help it to identify that. Then it basically starts pulling the metrics from the scrape targets. So from these targets, it will start pulling all of the data once it's identified it. And if it can't pull directly, what it will do is it will make use of third-party exporters. So sometimes what happens is that your application won't automatically expose its data, because the data is very sensitive thing, right? So you won't just expose it like that. So you have some kind of exporters. These third-party exporters basically open up the data so that Prometheus can start collecting them. So yeah, I hope you guys understand what this is. So Prometheus pulls the data from the targets. These can be your application. If it can't pull it, then it will ask help from exporter. Exporter will open the targets, and Prometheus will start pulling them. Once it's pulled all the data, it will store that data in local storage. In local storage, it will be stored in its own DB. So it will be stored over there. And once the data has been stored, we can start visualizing the data with the help of PromQL and Grafana. So in Grafana, you can select Prometheus as a source, and you can make use of PromQL to create your specific visuals and your charts. All right, so this is basics of how we're going to be collecting data. Now, there's one more thing. It's not that important, but I still need to tell you guys about it. It's called the alert manager. So you can configure your Prometheus to have certain alerts. So let's say that, number of errors have increased above 100. So now you want an alert that alerts you when the number of errors goes above 100. So for that you make use of alert manager, where Prometheus pushes the alerts to the alert manager, and alert manager basically sends it to your PagerDuty, Slack, or email notification, whatever you're using for alerting you. So this is the Prometheus architecture. Now let's quickly go through Grafana also, then we can start the practical. So Grafana is an open source monitoring solution that allows us to monitor real-time data collected using collection agents like Prometheus, using beautiful visualizations that give in-depth insights. All right. How many of you are dark mode fans? Because Grafana is all about dark mode fans. So I need a confirmation in the chat if you guys really like dark mode, or if you're a light mode fan. Okay, I have a personal bias, but I'm not going to tell you until I get to know your answer. So go ahead and tell me in the chat if you guys like dark mode or light mode. All right. So I have a question from Mahindra. Is Grafana like Tableau? Not exactly. Like in Tableau, you use a different kind of sets. Like you will do business visualization, like you're taking business data in and you visualize that. You have like Excel sheets and everything. But whereas your Grafana is for real-time monitoring, like it will take the logs in your system. So it's kind of like the task manager, where it takes in the logs of your system or your application, and it creates visualizations. And it doesn't create, you create them, but it visualizes that data. All right. So it's kind of like Tableau in the fact that it helps you to check things, like visualize things, but it isn't exactly for monitoring purposes. All right. Okay, so now that we're done with it, Grafana features you guys can look at: visualize, dynamic dashboards. You have real-time dashboards with it. You explore metrics and logs. So so one more thing, guys, I have to give you a disclaimer about. Prometheus is used for collecting metrics. It's not for logs. For logs, you have something else. You can use Loki to collect logs if you want. And I see an answer in the chat. We have a dark mode fan, Sandeep. High five. Me too. I also love dark mode. It's really good for the eyes in the night. And if you're working really late, it's really nice. Can we monitor any of the websites or only the things that we deploy? Any websites? No, you can't deploy any website. I think you would need permission from them, or you would need specific scrape, or you need to make use of the API that they provide you to get the data. And I don't think you can take in all the data that these websites have. So whatever we deploy, we will be monitoring that. So I hope that is a little bit more clear. All right. So Prometheus metrics, and for logs we'll use something else, but not in this session. Then alerting, again another feature, and mixed data sources. So a good thing about Grafana is that it's very flexible. You can use Grafana with a lot of different things, like not just Prometheus. You can use it with Loki, Elasticsearch, and all the other data sources that are there that I can't think of. All right. So that's Grafana features. Now let's start monitoring with Prometheus and Grafana that you guys have been waiting for. All right. So let me quickly go ahead and open up my console. So let me quickly launch these instances. So guys, I won't be going into detail over here. How to launch these instances. I'll give you guys a brief. So what I'm doing here is AWS console. If you guys know about it, it's a cloud provider. I'm going to be launching 3 virtual machines, because in these 3 virtual machines, I'll be launching my services. So first, what I will do is I will launch my website. So I'll launch my online website, and then I will launch the Prometheus and Grafana service. So there are a lot of other services involved with it. I'll explain to you guys what it does after I do the thing. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to launch Ubuntu servers. So let me go ahead and get the free tier. So there's a free tier. If you guys don't want to pay, just configure that. A number of instances I'm going to change to 3. So I'm going to launch 3 VMs. Rest of the things I'm going to leave default. Security group, I'm going to configure all traffic and any source. Then I'm going to click on review and launch. And I'm going to launch this. I will use this key pair because I have the private key installed on my system, downloaded on my system. All right. So, so Joel, I saw that you redacted your message, but I saw your choice. It's all right. You can be proud. Just because I am not a big fan of it doesn't mean you don't have to be. I saw the light mode, that you are a light mode fan. It's all right. Light mode is also pretty cool. It looks really nice. Light mode. It feels like you're in heaven. But to each his own. So let me go ahead and. Let me go ahead and type in the names for this. Let me just put them node 1. Let me call this master, and I will call the rest of them nodes. Or let me call these workers. Worker 1, worker 2. Guys, till they set up, just give me 2 seconds. I'll just go grab a glass of water. I'm getting really parched, so we'll continue in just 2 minutes. All right. Okay, that was refreshing. All right, so I have these launched. Let me quickly will put them up. So for those who know, for those of you guys who already know about Docker and EC2, who've been following my sessions for some time, you guys know the drill. We're going to be launching these VMs, and we're going to be basically running Docker on all 3 of them, and we'll be running Docker Swarm. Okay. If you guys don't know what Docker Swarm is, it's all right. You don't have to go into details. It's basically it's a manager that helps us to manage all the containers that we'll be launching. All right, so let me go ahead and get root access. I will go ahead and update this, and I will install docker.io. All right, so while this is happening, let me complete for the others also. So we'll leave the color the same for this, but we'll change the colors for bunkers 1 and 2, so we know the differences. Anyone who wants a brief tutorial on Docker, please go ahead and check out my Docker video, Docker live session that I've done. I have both in Hindi and in English, so choose what you like. Alright, so install Docker on that. Now just work with 2. Update the instance and install docker.io. Right. Okay, so we have Docker installed on 2 of them. This is still installing. We'll come back over here. All right, so Docker. So guys, if you don't know what Docker is, I'll give you a small definition. Docker is a tool that helps us to create containers, and containers are like very lightweight virtual machines. You will be launching servers and Ubuntu or any operating system inside of it. So that's what we're going to do. Instead of launching any operating system, we'll be launching our application within a container, and we'll be launching our monitoring service also within containers. Why? Because it's much more easier to set up, and you just have like very fast, you can deploy it, or if you want you can take it down very fast. So Docker is very helpful in that matter, especially if you have a very big stack, like if you're using a lot of different technologies, right? It's really nice if you have Docker. You just type in one command and it will put up the whole service up, and if you just type in one command it will put the whole service down. So it's really cool that way. Alright, so I have installed Docker on all of them. Now to connect all of these, what I'm going to do is I can't just randomly connect them. I need to use Docker Swarm service. So I'm going to go ahead and initialize the swarm. If you guys know the English definition of swarm, like a bee swarm, right? So a bee swarm has a lot of different bees. So in a Docker swarm, you have a lot of different Docker containers. Right now, you'll have a lot of different Docker nodes. So you type in Docker swarm init, and you copy in the Docker join token command, and you paste it on these workers. So my workers will join, and I have a lot of workers. So I'm like the queen, and these guys are the worker bees. All right, that's really cool. Now what we will do is let me just go ahead and verify that my nodes are here. Yep, my nodes are ready and active. So these are basically all the other servers. All right, so now what we will do is we are going to go to my GitHub repository. So let me go ahead and open it up. So it's GitHub and /remy/code. So this is my repo. And what we're going to do is we're going to open 2 services over here. So I'll show you guys these services. Now again, a disclaimer, guys. So these services, right? So I forked them from some other. So I forked them from some other people's repositories. So made some changes and just using them. So for the purpose of educational purposes. So you guys can go ahead and give these guys some love. Just give them stars or say hi to them and be like you are really awesome. I'll do the same thing. So what we're going to do is, so using this repo, I'm going to go ahead and copy the website, the online website, and I'm going to use git to clone this project over here. So you can see that it's cloning the express cart over here. So if I do an ls, I can see the express cart. Now what I will do is I will go ahead and get my monitoring service. So over here in monitoring service, I'll tell you guys what all we are using over here. Sudo git clone and enter. All right, so we have both our services over here. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so we have Express. Let me go inside Express. Okay, it's not pretty cool right now. And we will go ahead and launch our application. So over here, we're going to be making use of Docker Compose.yaml. This is a Node.js application. Basically, it's making use of Node.js, and we'll be launching it accordingly. So right now I'm going to take the Docker Compose.yaml file and I'm going to put it up. So let me do that. Docker compose up -- build. So this will build up my service, right? So we have to install Docker compose also. All right, so here we have Docker compose. Let me just copy this command. So we are installing Docker Compose. Now Docker Compose is a service that allows us to launch multiple containers at the same time. Docker Swarm basically helps us to manage it, and Docker Compose helps us to launch it, right? All right, so let me see Docker Compose installed. Now we're gonna go ahead and type in that command again, Docker Compose up build. So as you guys can see, this will start building my application. It'll download the image for MongoDB. So using MongoDB as its back this thing database, and it's using the MHR Alpine image. All right, so while we wait for this to install, why don't you guys ask me some questions? I see this chat is pretty shy right now. Maybe you guys have nothing to ask me for. Am I not explaining well? I hope I am. I really hope that you guys can understand and enjoy the session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. That's my job during the live session. It's supposed to be an interactive session. All right. Okay. So this is loading up. What shall we do till this happens? So let me go ahead and explain the services that we have. All right, so inside of our monitoring services, right? So in our monitoring services, we have a few things. We have Docker D Exporter, Grafana, and Prometheus. Now I've already told you guys about Prometheus and Grafana. So it's kind of cheating if I told you about, I didn't tell you about CADI, Alert Manager, Docker D Exporter, Node Exporter, and all of these kind of things. Don't worry, I'll go through them one by one. It's just, you don't really need to go into detail about these kind of things. I'll just tell you their functions, and I've told you already a little bit about them. All right, so we'll wait for this to happen. Oh, you know what, while this is happening, what we can do is we can duplicate this session, and while we duplicate this session, let me open just 1 second, guys, while this loads. Oh, so we have a question in the chat. That's nice. Priya Darshi. So you are okay. Thank you so much. Yes, I am a little bit awesome. Can you please tell the flow of Docker and DevOps? So okay, that's a hectic topic, but I'll give you a brief right now. In DevOps, you basically try to automate the whole process, and you try to make it as efficient as possible. So what Docker does is, right, it does two things. It first helps us to maintain consistent environments where you can have the same kind of environment across a lot of different servers, and that is very useful when you have to transport code over these servers. Why are you transporting code over these servers? Because you want the code to go through a lot of different processes, like building process, testing process, staging process, right? So you make use of Docker containers to launch environments that help your code remain in a consistent environment even though they are on different servers. So that's what basically Docker helps us to do. Another thing that it helps us to do is basically deploy software. That's what we're doing right now. As you guys can see, we have one software that is being deployed. All right, so I hope it's been deployed. What we're going to do is we're going to take the IP of the master, and we're going to go to port 111. So that's where the Express card opens up. Apparently it's throwing an error. Let me just check out the error. All right, so let's just try this again. So you can see that with one command I've shut down the whole service, and with one command I can build it back up. So this time it successfully launched. Hooray. Yes. So it must have been one-time issue. All right, so let's go ahead and refresh this. Fingers crossed. Or you know what, we'll just wait for this to load. All right, so while this is loading, let me come back over here. We'll head to our Swarm Prom. That is our monitoring service. So over here, you guys can see there are a lot of different tools. So I want to show you guys the Docker Compose file mainly over here. So in the Docker Compose file, you guys will understand what all services are being used. All right, so let me show you. We have a network, so we're using one network, that is a overlay driver, to connect across the basically nodes. We're using 3 volumes, for one for Prometheus, Grafana, Alert Manager. Configs, I need to tell you guys, services, so Docker D exporter. So so Docker, whenever you install, so it has its own engine. So to understand how the engine is working, sorry, so the engine itself does not expose its own endpoint. So I told you guys about exporters, right, that help Prometheus collect data. Sometimes some things don't expose their data just like that. You have to ask them to do it. So Dockerd is an exporter that helps us to basically, it knocks on Docker engine's door and asks us, please, can you give us your data? And then it allows Prometheus to collect that data. All right, so that is your Docker D. Now, CA Advisor, this is something that is very important that we'll be talking about. So CA Advisor it's again an exporter. So what this does is it basically helps us collect data on containers. So we'll be collecting data on containers. So when I say monitoring in the online website over here, I want to see how it's doing performance-wise and metric-wise. So that's why we're using CA Advisor. CA Advisor basically exposes this thing. It exposes endpoints through which Prometheus can collect data on all of the containers that are running all the places. So that's your CA Advisor. So that's why we're launching a service for CA Advisor. Then we have Grafana. Again, I've told you guys about Grafana already. So let's skip this. And we have one more one that I want to tell you guys about. Alert Manager, I've already told you guys about. ANSI is basically used for, it's used for giving authorization for certain things. You'll see. Then we have node exporter. So node exporter is the second important thing I want to talk about. So node exporter, as the name suggests, is an exporter for nodes. All these 3 things over here are nodes. This is not 4. I just duplicated this over here. So these 3 things are nodes. I want to collect data on the nodes themselves. How is the system itself doing? I just don't want to see the containers. I want to see the system on which these containers are, and I want to see the metrics for them. So this is what the node exporter does. It exposes the endpoints for all of these nodes. All right, so these are all the main important things. I just want to show you guys. So again, guys, we have Prometheus collecting the data, but it can't collect data from everyone without permission and without having the endpoints exposed. So we have things like node exporter, and we have C Advisor that expose the nodes and the containers for Prometheus, so Prometheus can start collecting the data. All right, so this is giving us an error. All right, I understood why it's giving us the error. Let me go ahead and change that setting. All right, so we'll go to config and we will head to inside config. Let me just head to config. And we have to open up settings.json. Yes, so let me go ahead and open settings.json. All right, so we just have to come down. Yeah, so the database connection is the one that's giving us a problem over here. So let me go ahead and remove this, and we will replace it with a suitable connection address. So this is the connection address. You guys can copy it from the URL also. All right, so I'll go ahead and paste this. Oh, I messed it up somehow. Let me just try this again. No. So database connection strings. All right, so it pasted one extra thing. Let me just go ahead and remove that. All right, so yeah, we have it, right? MongoDB. All right, let me go ahead and save this, and we will build this again. All right, so now I will build this again. This time we should not get any issues. Okay, so it will start. Guys, keep your fingers crossed. The more number of fingers crossed, the better chances it has of running. Yeah, we can ignore these warnings and all. So while this is happening, now the reason I'm not starting this service is because I don't want to overload the system with a lot of different processes happening at the same time. We're already using the free tier, and we don't want to overload it, because if you overload it, it will stop working. So okay. Any other questions you guys might have that you want to ask, even Docker related? Now that I have time to answer it, I'll try to answer those. If you have, please go ahead and ask them. uh, So I'll just tell you how this is working out. So basically, it's using MongoDB as its database to store the data, and it's basically using Node JavaScript to run. So we're using Node.js and npm to run this. Npm is a Node package manager that helps us to download the packages. So what it's doing is basically in the container that it's creating, it's downloading the packages that are required to run our application. Now, why, you might ask, why doesn't it already have those packages? Why does it have to install and take so much time? Well, that is because if you have all the packages, right, it's going to be, the size of your whole package is going to be like extremely big, so you can't easily transport it or transfer it from one place to another. Yes, hooray, it's running. So Joel asks, are there cases where the exporter fails to collect data? So Joel, exporter will basically, it won't fail, but it can fail. Like, let me show you. I already have an assumption to show you guys. There is a D or Docker D exporter is not going to be working. I'll tell you why also it won't work. So let me just do this. And hooray, our cloth shop is working. So this online, okay, so no products found. So let me quickly correct that. So I will do a docker ps, right, sudo docker ps. We have a container running over here. We just need to enter that container. Sudo docker exec -it express cart. Actually, let me just go ahead and make sure of that. Express cart, and then we'll run npm test data. And I'll enter this through bash, and we are inside the container. Now we're basically inputting some test data. So this is the test data that this person has put up, and then it will start working with the test data. All right, so let's just exit, and if we go ahead and refresh this, yeah, here you guys can see all the data has been come up. You can add to cart, and it will add to cart and everything. Added to cart successfully. So this is your running online website. So guys, a false promise that I could not deliver on was a online bookstore. So I delivered on an online store itself. So I hope that's totally fine. The whole purpose was to show you guys how to monitor things. So now that we have a service running up, now we can quickly go ahead and run our Docker monitoring service. So finally, we will get to deploy this. Let me go ahead and type in the command docker. So this one we're going to be using Docker stack to deploy. So that is Docker stack deploy, and the name of our Docker compose file. All right, and we're going to name the stack. I'm going to say this monitoring stack. Docker stack deploy. I'm using the right command, right? You forgot the -c. That's what happens when you don't have root access, guys. Gives you all these nonsensical errors, but it's all for the best practices. So you guys can see that all of our things are being created, services are being created all over here. And if I do a docker ps, you guys will see an avalanche of containers being run. Docker ps. Now let's see if I press enter. Now you guys will see an avalanche of containers being run. You guys won't even be able to identify what's happening where. So let me, change the settings for this. Make this a little smaller. We're almost done with this also. So I can have the liberty to, show you guys how it all looks, how nice it looks. And all right, so let's just do this again. And now you guys can see all the containers a little better. So you guys can see, you have your Swarm from Grafana, the Alert Manager, the Prometheus, and you have this is the C Advisor that helps you collect data, Docker D Exporter, Caddy, Unsee, and Node Exporter. So guys, two things over here. So your Node Exporter and your C Advisor, right? They will be running on all of the workers. Why? Because we want to collect data from all of the nodes and all of the containers. So you have to run those exporters on every node from which you want to collect data. Otherwise, it won't be able to collect the data. So you guys can see we have Caddy and we have Node Exporter and we have C Advisor also over here. If we do the same in the other one, if I do a Docker PS, all right, so you guys can see the same result over here. So this is Docker D Exporter and Node Exporter. My bad, right? All right, so let's come back and now we will access our monitoring stack. So first to access our monitoring stack, I'm going to go ahead and copy the IP address of our system and paste it, and we are first going to go to Prometheus. So Prometheus is a collection agent, but it still has a GUI. You can access it. So you guys can see the authorization I told you about earlier. Just type in admin, that's the username and password. Obviously, in production environments, you can't use this admin. All right, so here you guys can see it's just showing the graph. Let me go ahead and show you targets. So targets are the most important things. Let us close all the other clutter. You guys don't need to get more confused. All right, so we have our app and we have our targets. So targets basically tell us where Prometheus is collecting data from and is it successfully collecting them or not. So here you can see the C Advisor, that is for collecting data from containers, is totally up. It's all up and it's all collecting data. You can even see the scrape duration and the last scrape over here. Whereas Docker D Exporter is not working. Why is it not working? Because they're all down over here, the servers. And why is it down? Well, the reason to tell you is, like Joel asked over here, are cases where exporter fails to collect data. So here the exporter has failed to expose the endpoints through which we can collect the Docker client's data. So over here we have, if I do a Docker -- version, right? So the Docker engine that is over here will actually it won't expose any data, because even though we're using Docker D, it's an experimental thing where you collect the data for a client. So you have to enable certain metrics. You have to go into a JSON file and configuration.json file, and you have to enable that setting where it allows Docker D to expose the points. So that's a lot of hectic things. So I just wanted to show you what happens in case something fails also. So right now this won't be collecting any Docker client's data. So Docker client is basically your Docker engine, your Docker itself. But we still have the container data being taken up, and we have the node exporter, that is the node data being taken up. And Prometheus always collects its own data also. Actually, not always. I have configured it in Prometheus.yaml, where we give it the scrape targets. So how Prometheus works is that you have to tell Prometheus where it needs to collect data from. You guys can see it over here. If I do an ls, we have a Prometheus folder in which we have the Prometheus.yaml file. So if I go inside Prometheus and if I do go inside the conf file, and if I will open up the Prometheus.yaml file, you guys can see this is the Prometheus YAML file. Here are the global configurations where the scrape interval is going to be 15 seconds. So it's going to be scraping data every 15 seconds. And here is your scrape configurations where your job name is given and your targets are being given. So you can see that it's collecting data from Prometheus at this particular location. It's collecting data from C Advisor. It's collecting data from Node Exporter. So now let me go ahead and show you guys how you can check the data out, how you can visualize it. So what we will do is we will go to this particular location, same IP, same port, just we're going to change it from targets to metrics. When we change it to metrics, we're going to get a lot of different metrics over here. You guys can see. So this also is an indicator of if you're collecting data or not. So you can just scroll down and you can see that this is the prom HTTP metric handler request total. So basically what this is doing is checking how many times you requested for data. So what we will do is we will close metrics. I have copied this. Let me just copy this. Let me copy this. And I will head to graph. Sorry, not graphs. Graph. Dude, मैं session में हूँ.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so sorry about the disturbance, guys. We're gonna go ahead and paste the query over here, and we're gonna press enter. When we execute it, right? So you guys can see I see a lot of people have left, but it's all right. We have, if we execute this, you guys can see the graphs coming in. And if you check the console, you can see all the requests, all the particular logs coming in, not the logs, the events, right? So this is how you check it in Prometheus itself. Now, Prometheus can do some kind of visualization, but this is very menial, and it's light mode. So I don't really like it that much. So let's open up Grafana. Grafana is a really cool place. So let me copy this IP address and this port. I will paste it over here. We will head to 3000 port. So that's where your Grafana is available. Now, whenever you log in into your Grafana, right, you have to give in the password admin, username and password. So let's just finish while to loading, finish it loading up. All right, so we're going to give it admin, login, and then you guys can give your own admin password and everything. All right, so I've logged in. Now with Grafana, you have to make some configurations if you're not using this service. So you have to make sure that your Prometheus is a part of the source that is over here. So first you go to configurations and you click on data sources. So in data sources, you have to make sure that Prometheus is selected as a data source. You can go ahead and select on Prometheus, and you need to make sure that the URL is as such. Okay, nothing else needs to be configured. You can just click on save and test. You will get data source updated and data source is working. So that's really perfect for us. It's very simple how you connect your Prometheus to your Grafana. Now the juicy part, where we go to dashboards, and I'll go to home. And within home, that we can see that there's a whole process where you install Grafana, get your data source, get your dashboard. But the thing is, we already have dashboards. Is because this service that we are using provides us with a lot of different dashboards. So we already configured the JSON formats for our dashboards, and we've already imported them. So here you guys can see all of them. So we have Docker Swarm nodes, Docker Swarm services, and Prometheus stats. So a dashboard for Prometheus, a dashboard for Docker Swarm nodes, and a dashboard for Docker Swarm services. So guys, we have Docker Swarm nodes. This is basically collecting data in from our nodes itself. So you guys can see the uptime, 29.3 minutes. How many nodes are up? 3 nodes. Our worker, 2 workers, and 1 queen. I mean 1 master. And you have 3 CPUs. You can see the CPU idle time. You can see the CPU load by the node. If I check it over here, you guys can see it gives you the individual load by the node. So the one with the 91 is taking most of the load. So 91 should be our manager node. Yes, 91 is our manager node, and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting over here. You guys can see it's launching so many containers. That's why it's got a lot of load in the Docker Swarm itself. You can see the memory usage by the node. You can see the swap memory by the node. This disk input is not happening, or IOPS is not happening. So you can see the CPU IO weight by the node, and you can see the running containers by services. So we have certain services defined over here, like you can see node exporter, Docker exporter, CAdvisor, Caddy, but you won't see our Docker, our website over here, because we did not launch it as a service. We launched it as a Docker Compose service. So Docker Compose service is a little different than your normal service, so that's why it's not showing it over here, but that's all right. We want to see the containers, so it's gonna take a few seconds to load in the containers. Reload, and you guys can see the container network traffic by the node. You can see the cluster members, all of those things. You can see that we have such really good dashboards for all of this. And if you want to add your own dashboard, what you can do is you can just click on add, go to dashboard, and over here you will have option to create the first panel. You can select graph and you can edit the panel. You can go ahead and put in a prompt query. Let's say you wanted to put in the same query over here. Just take this query, you can go ahead and paste this query, and you need to select the data source as Prometheus, and you will see that it's showing the graph. So this is how you add basically panels. I can go ahead and save this dashboard, this new dashboard, copy itself, and it will save the dashboard with one panel. That just shows us how many HTTP requests are being happening. All right, so let's just come back to this. Guys, apologies for the slow internet. All right, so guys, here you can see how many nodes we have. We have 3 nodes, 1 stack, and 8 services and 14 containers. So we have a lot of different containers, and this is the CA advisor data being collected over here. So Swarm services, so you're basically checking the containers individually and the services that are being collected over here. So you can see the CPU usage by the service, you can see the CPU idleness, you can see CPU usage by the container, and you can see the memory usage by the service, and a lot of different things like available memory and memory usage by container. And it's given the top 10 containers, but we have more than that. You can go ahead and configure it to have more containers over here. Right now we only have these containers running. You can even check the networking received by particular services, which has the highest one. If you check, caddy has the highest one, because caddy is the one that caddy is the one that allows us to do all the authorization. So that's why it's been working hardcore over here. And we have all the network transmitted, cluster network, cluster IOPS, a lot of different options over here. And you guys can check even Prometheus data. So Prometheus samples appended, scrape durations, memory profiles, head chunks, block loaded, active appenders, and head block GC, reload count, and rule group eval duration. So you have a lot of different options that you guys can choose. All right, so guys, this is your monitoring the website where you're checking out specific API requests. If you want to create your own dashboard based on those specific API requests, you can just go ahead and take the PromQL query and paste it in and create your own dashboard. Or if you just want to check out how your containers or your nodes are performing, as we can see over here with the Docker Swarm nodes, we can see how the nodes on which our application is being launched. So on this, our application is being launched, and we can see how that particular node is doing. So we can see, first of all, we have 3 nodes, and we have CPU by the usage and system load by the node. So you can see all of these different details, figure out what if something is using way too many resources. You identify that problem, and you identify that 91 is using 600 MB, so you know that this is the problem, right? So this is monitoring using Grafana and Prometheus, your simple online web application. All right, guys, so I'll give you guys 5 minutes for end session Q&A. So please go ahead and ask questions. So there's going to be a little bit of lag, so I'm just gonna maintain silence. If you guys wanted to see all your services, you can use the command docker service ls. Okay. No more questions. I was reading the older question again. So any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try to answer them. So this is how you guys put down a service. Just type in docker stack rm monitoring stack, and if you want to start it up again, just type in docker stack deploy -c, then the name of your yeah, Sandeep, are you guys able to see my messages? Yeah, I'm able to see your messages. I mean, recently I haven't seen any messages from you, but normally I've been able to see your messages. I've answered some of your questions before. All right, guys. So that's it for this session. I hope you guys really enjoyed something and took something out of the session. Since I don't see any more questions coming in, I'll leave this be. Guys, I really enjoyed teaching this today's session. Again, if you guys want to enroll in any of our software development courses or any data science courses, please go ahead and check out Great Learning Academy. Type that in Google or just go to greatlearning.in/academy and you can enroll in any of our courses for free, get certificates for free. And if you want, you can get the same in your mobile application also. Again, you've been an awesome audience. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed teaching. And I'll see you guys. My name is Ram, signing, and I'll see you guys in the next session.